Alright, so now that we've gone over the major changes to combat, let's look at the origins, classes, and champions. So of course, for those of you who got used to Rise of the Elements, this is going to be a learning curve. It is a learning curve for me. I'm still trying to figure out who's who in-game because I'm just not as familiar. But hopefully as time goes by, we will all get used to this and it will come naturally. Alright, let's start with the origins. The first one I'm going to talk about is Celestial. Celestial champions heal all allies for a % of the damage they deal with spell attacks. So the comp starts with 2 champions, 4, and then ends at 6. When you have 2 champions, you get 10% healing, 4 champions, you get 20% healing, and with 6 champions, you get 45% healing. Celestial champions are Saya, Rakan, Sin, Ashe, Kassadin, and Lulu. The next origin is Chrono. If you have a Chrono comp, all allies will gain attack speed every 4 seconds. So it starts at 2 champions, moves on to 4, and ends at 6. Chrono champions are Caitlyn, Twisted, Blitzcrank, Shen, Israel, Wukong, and Thresh. The next origin is Cybernetic. Cybernetic champions with at least 1 item will gain health and attack damage. Cybernetic comp really encourages you to spread out items among the Cybernetic champions. The comp starts at 3 champions and ends at 6. The Cybernetic champions are Fiora, Leona, Lucian, Vi, Irelia, and Echo. The next origin is Dark Star. When a Dark Star champion dies, it gives increased damage plus any previous stacks of this effect to the nearest allied Dark Star champion. The comp starts at 3 champions, ends at 6. Dark Star champions are Jarvan, Mordekaiser, Karma, Lux, Shaco, and Jhin. The next origin is Mech Pilot. When you have 3 Mech Pilots out, at the start of combat, 3 random Mech Pilots are teleported into a Super Mech. This Super Mech has the combined health, attack damage, and traits of its pilots, as well as 3 random items from among them. When the Super Mech dies, the pilots are ejected, granted 25 mana, and continue to fight. The Mech Pilot champions are Annie, Rumble, and Fizz. The next origin is Rebel. At the start of combat, Rebels gain a shield and increased damage for each adjacent Rebel. The comp starts at 3 champions, ends at 6. The Rebel champions are Ziggs, Malphite, Sona, Yasuo, Master Yi, Jinx, and Aurelion Sol. Another origin is Space Pirate. Whenever a Space Pirate lands a killing blow on a champion, there is a chance to drop extra loot. You can have 2 or 4 Space Pirates. Space Pirates are Graves, Darius, Jace, and Gangplank. Alright, the next origin is Star Guardian. Star Guardian spellcasts grant mana to other Star Guardians. This mana is spread among them. The comp starts at 3 champions, ends at 6. Star Guardian champions are Poppy, Zoe, Ahri, Neeko, Syndra, and Soraka. Another origin is Valkyrie. If you have 2 Valkyries out on the board, Valkyrie attacks and spells always critically strike targets below 50% health. Valkyrie champions are Kai'Sa, Kayle, and Misfortune. And the last origin is Void. When you have 3 Void champions on the board, their attacks and spells will deal true damage. The Void champions are Kha'Zix, Cho'Gath, and Vel'Koz. Now let's talk about champion classes. The first class is Blade Masters. Blade Masters' basic attacks have a chance to trigger 2 additional attacks against their target. These additional attacks will deal damage like basic attacks and trigger on-hit effects. The comp starts at 3 champions, ends at 6. Blade Master champions are Fiora, Saya, Shen, Yasuo, Master Yi, Irelia, and Kayle. The next class are Blasters. Every 4th basic attack from a Blaster fires additional attacks at random enemies. These additional attacks deal damage like basic attacks and trigger on-hit effects. You can have 2 or 4 Blasters on the board. Blaster champions are Graves, Lucian, Israel, Jinx, and Misfortune. The next class is Brawlers. Brawlers gain bonus maximum health. You can have 2 or 4 Brawlers. Brawler champions are Malphite, Blitzcrank, Vi, and Cho'Gath. The next class is Demolitionist. When you have 2 Demolitionists on the board, their spell casts will stun their opponents for 1.5 seconds. This happens once per spell cast. Demolitionist champions are Ziggs, Rumble, and Gangplank. Another champion class is Infiltrator. Infiltrator's innate ability is, at the start of combat, they will move to the enemy's backline, kind of like the assassins from Rise of the Elements. Infiltrators gain attack speed for 8 seconds at the start of combat. You can have 2 or 4 Infiltrators on the board. Infiltrator champions are Kha'Zix, Kai'Sa, Shaco, Fizz, and Echo. The next class is Mana Reaver. Mana Reaver's basic attacks increase the mana cost of their target's next spell cast by 40%. You can have 2 or 4 Mana Reavers on the board. With 2, the effect will apply in the first attack each combat. With 4, it will apply to all attacks. Mana Reaver champions are Darius, Kassadin, Irelia, and Thresh. Another champion class is Mercenary. The innate ability of Mercenaries is that they can buy upgrades for their spells in the shop. You can have 1 Mercenary on the board, and the Mercenary champions are Gangplank and Misfortune. Another class is Mystic. With Mystics, all allies gain magic resistance. You can have 2 or 4 Mystics out on the board. With 2, you will have 30 magic resistance. With 4, you will have 120 magic resistance. Mystic champions are Sona, Karma, Soraka, and Lulu. Next up are Protectors. Protectors shield themselves for 4 seconds whenever they cast a spell. This shield doesn't stack. You can have 2 or 4 Protectors on the board. Protector champions are Jarvan, Rakan, Sin, and Nico. Next up is Snipers. You only need 2 Snipers on the board, and when you do, they will deal increased damage for each hex between themselves and their target. Sniper champions are Caitlyn, Ashe, and Jhin. Another champion class is Sorcerer. When you have a Sorcerer comp, all allies have increased spell power. You can have 2, 4, or 6 Sorcerer champions on the board. Sorcerer champions are Zoe, Twisted Fate, Ahri, Annie, Lux, Syndra, and Vel'Koz. Another special champion class is Starship. There is only 1 Starship, and its innate ability is that it gains 20 mana per second, maneuvers around the board, and is immune to movement impairing effects, but can't basic attack. And the Starship champion is Aurelian Soul. And last but not least are the Vanguards. Vanguard champions gain bonus armor. You can have 2 or 4 Vanguard champions on the board, and Vanguard champions are Leona, Poppy, Mordekaiser, Jace, and Wukong. And this wraps up my video on the different origins, champions, and classes in TFT Galaxies. If you're interested in the new items as well as the mechanics of TFT Galaxies, please check out my other videos that I made in this series. You can see them on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. This was Zoya, the Russian Korean. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.